Okay, I think I got everything all good. All right, this is actually okay. So this is my commentary for Dexter Resurrection episode 1. Hope the audio comes out good. So, they're doing the previously on right now, so I guess I'm gonna really get into it. Once we get into more into the actual episode. Jim Lindsay, that was an Easter egg for the writer Jeff Lindsay, who actually wrote the book series of Dexter. So I like that. The New Blood really did reflect a lot more of what the books were about. I think I thought that was pretty interesting. So yeah, this is a huge buildup after I don't know 2013 with 12 years. It's like 12 years we've been waiting for this, and I'm actually glad to be able to see it. I'm glad to be alive to see it. Um, I know a lot of people. Well, I actually read somewhere there's like a spiritual person I talked to, and they were like, "Oh, never someone or people pass away, their spirits can actually still watch movies or TV shows." I'm like, what? That gave me hope. That gave me because there's a lot of shows and stuff I want to watch. I'm just like worried. What if I die and I can't see him? But I'm really glad to be able to still be around to see Dexter come this far. I love this show. I loved it so much. I love this show so much, and I think I was still in middle school when this came out. I started watching it at season 4. Yeah, season 4 was actually the first. Um, season 4 was the first season of Dexter I actually watched, and then I went backwards. Right now, Dexter's being revived. I like that of heartbeat or a beating heart. I'll take it. It's like a serial killer joke. I love that so much. A beating heart. Now let's see where life takes Dexter, huh? Just right away we start off with this, just bringing you right back to what we loved about the show, the characters that we loved in the old show, just bringing them right back. So I'm actually recording. I'm recording on two different mics. So one of the mics has the actual audio and me watching the episode live, but the other recording is just my voice. So if you hear me being quiet, now and then, it's because you know I'm watching it, and one mic only gets the audio of what I'm saying. So I apologize for people who get random pieces of silence. The Trinity Killer. I love the Trinity Killer. And so the thing about this scene and Trinity represented greed and out of the deadly sins and everything. So the thing about that lesson that Dexter had to learn when he was in season 4, and he had to learn about greed is greed comes with consequences. And I think that it was important that Dexter understood the consequences of greed and trying to have it all, is what he said. So I like that Dexter had to face that lesson with Arthur uh in the scene, that he's like, "Oh, I blame you, Arthur." And Arthur's like, "You really think it's my fault? It's not." And so, if Dexter was in a different state, him facing that ghost would have been completely different. Yeah, they used to bury bodies in the cemetery. Miguel, when he did with Ellen Wolf, I actually about teared up in this scene when Miguel came back. I love Miguel, and Miguel was cool. He was all right. I think the problem was that Dexter didn't know how to be a proper mentor, and when he tried to teach Miguel, he didn't know how to be a teacher, and he tried to control the symptoms that Miguel was going through. Then Miguel just kind of, bit that hand that fed him. So this scene actually, what Miguel says is actually pretty deep. When when Miguel, he says, you found when you tried to live a normal life and you found your victims and innocent people became just as dead. Gosh, that alarm is triggering. It's my wake up alarm. So I just freaked out for a moment. When Miguel said that so there's actually some depth to that. A lot of times people, well, I'm actually going to turn the volume down right here because I need to make sure that. So what Miguel said was actually pretty deep about when they were at the cemetery because a lot of times people Dexter's always been like that sort of a star seed light worker angel of death type person, and when you are kind of when you do have sort of like that superhero type, influence the world kind of destiny thing going on, you know, i- i- a lot of times when you have a destiny and if you ignore the destiny and you try to live normal amongst the people, well, it goes into that type of territory where what you are, what you have, what the gift that you have, what you were sent here to do, if you ignore what it is, then those who actually need your gift to be used will end up becoming victims. And so Dexter is not the kind of person who has that destiny. Maybe he can be, but like the message there with Miguel was more on the lines of hey, if you try to live normal and you try to ignore your gift and what you were here to do in your destiny, then innocent people are going to end up just as hurt or just as dead, as the bad people. And embracing your destiny is needed, because if you don't do it, then you end up denying the world the gift, which end up hurting people who may have been able to evolve with or from the gift that they've learned from you. So now we see here Harrison is, getting along with everybody. He's having a good time eating his burritos and everything. Yeah, Harrison's just having a good old time. So I don't know when is a good time to talk about this, but I do want to talk about um, the ending. Uh, which no, there's a scene later on where I can actually talk about the ending. This car right here, I don't know whose car it is, but it is a BMW Roadster i8, I believe. I believe it's an i8. I love my cars. What was funny is there's actually a car, the Eclipse Spider. I actually didn't know that it was an Eclipse Spider when I saw the convertible model. I was like, really? Now here we are, getting an introduction to the new world, newer, age of technology and things like that. Really seeing how Harrison is following in the footsteps of his dad in a sense of everyone loves him, everyone likes him. he was the donut guy. So this is Harrison being the donut guy. you know, it's just expressed differently, and I like that idea too of how this show tackles that of the generations in father and son, which is following in footsteps of the father. And I like how when you follow in the footsteps of the father, the way that you express those footsteps can come out very differently, but the source could always still be the same. There was a old Batman comic where Batman manifested in Bruce Wayne's dad instead of Bruce Wayne. There was a guy who actually shot Bruce Wayne and the mom, and so the dad lived and became Batman. He ended up becoming just evil and just became a full-on villain. Versus that same thing happening to Bruce Wayne and he became the anti-hero. So I kind of like how they do that in Dexter, how they handle that concept of the source is passed down, but the expression of that source can be very different. Yeah, I love the use of the special effects. Dexter's never. I wouldn't. I don't know if it's been all right with the special effects over the years, but it's gotten better. I love how subtly I love how they introduce these characters. They introduce the characters very uniquely, and what I love is how um, Harrison is starting to kind of transition from that light side into something else, and the way he's meeting these characters is a little different. But yeah, so I guess I can talk about this now. I was going to talk about it in the future scene, but I've been through a situation where like when Harrison ends up shooting Dexter and everything. And I understand the symbolism there, which sometimes the parent or the kid has to the analogy of shooting the parent and being able to move on, because sometimes our parents represent our darkness. They represent our demon, our biggest demon, or our biggest shadow. That's something that parents don't understand. Is our parents, they say they want the best for us, say they want all these good things, but what they don't realize is sometimes they themselves are the embodiment of the biggest thing that's destroying our soul, or that is the darkest thing of our soul. And so when it comes to this psychological chemistry, these psychological equations, I love how Dexter really is aware of what's going on with stuff like that, and they know how to properly put it in this Rubik's cube type thing, and they just call it Dexter. But now here's Dexter talking with Harry, and now he's wondering if it was a mistake. Harry's saying, "Nah." I like how. Oh, I love that. That's Brian from Dexter Original Sin. Yeah, now here's Harry telling Dexter, "Hey, look what happened to Brian. Brian just came out pure evil and misguided, and he needs someone to look out for him." And that again goes into jokes. That goes into the father passing down something to the son, but it being transparent, being expressed in a different way. Dexter understands the light and dark side, and Dexter can teach Harrison, how to navigate through the symptoms of what he's feeling, and show him the trial and errors of what it means to go down this path in life. And I love that. that Harrison can still kind of express this thing in a different way. That wasn't the same as Dexter. Tense music. I love that when Dokes puts his finger up to his eyes and points it at Dexter's eyes, and then Dexter falls back to sleep. I love that so much. That was I remember in that scene, Dexter was like, I think the season one or season two, he was like, my demon, my his demon dance with my devil, or something like that. And then it shows the previews of Dokes doing that. That always stuck with me as a fan throughout the years. 10 weeks. If I was a doctor, I'd make jokes like that too. Shoot. Ah, I knew it. I knew that Dexter. I knew it was the cold that would have saved Dexter. Well, it would make sense. No, I remember when I got into my car accident a couple weeks ago, or no, I'm sorry, a couple years ago, and after I got into my accident, I woke up in the middle of a parking lot, and it was at the mall, and I just like kind of blacked out, but I couldn't remember like anybody, and it took a while before I started remembering people. I was like, what the heck's going on? It was amazing to know, uh, if I was really in a distressful situation, who would be the first person that you would call instinctively without thinking. And I learned that day. And so this creating a scene like this is what I like about these new Dexters. Is you create the scene is evolving into something versus like Dexter just knowing what's up, and Dex and just like the entire scene being controlled by a narrative of is Dexter going to do it or not. With that, what I like about this is with Harrison is it's building. You go from the elevator, you go from downstairs, you go to the elevator, you go to the top floor, and it's like you're being walked through this story. You're watching the transition of the tension. These actors have to act their way into the transitioning instead of just like boldly becoming who they need to be from scene to scene. And that's what I really really love about especially the original sin and this one, is you're actually seeing the psychological transformations in the scenes evolve instead of seeing how they just boom, we're here, boom, we're there, boom, we're here. It always have these color schemes of blue and red, and I like how they have the red here. It's really showing where Harrison's at, like maybe like spiritually, maybe, but mentally. Gosh, that's brutal. It's right in the bathtub. Yeah, you really show you really see the red, um, what that symbolizes. Ouch. Yeah, he's hitting. hitting him with the toilet seat. Apparently, the first one like shattered because Jack was the actor who plays Harrison was too aggressive and ended up shattering it the first time, and he had to do it again. I told him to be a bit more gentle, and oh yeah. So there was a scene earlier when Harrison is talking and he gets scared at the door. He's like cuts himself off when he's talking, and everything. But right here in this moment when he looks in the mirror and he says the F word, that was like I believe that was a reference to when Dexter and New Blood. No, well, it's a reference to like Harrison is holding on to his innocence so much. And then in this moment when he looks in the mirror and sees the blood and he says the F word, and that was like a reintroduction to that dark side kind of coming right back in, and him transitioning and that side of him coming back up or coming back out. And we don't really know too much about Harrison. The only time Harrison was really in the show is, he was dealing with so much, and just trying to be a son trying to figure it out. And so, this is the first time we're actually getting a chance to see, his character. So it's like getting to see Harrison right now with a lot of the issues people had with his character the first time. It's like now we're just like seeing his actions and seeing his deeds and seeing what he's doing. And yeah, by doing that we get to like recreate the relationship we have. We get to recreate the relationship we have with the Harrison character. It might be me, but I don't remember him saying all of this. I don't remember him saying all that. Gosh, that's just ugh. Seeing all that blood slush, that was a bit disturbing. That not gonna lie, that's a little disturbing. I like how composed Dexter was, or Harrison was, though. And I think it was important to show that little blood smear because Dexter's superpower as an individual character is that he's a blood guy, and so he will pay attention to stuff like that. Whereas, most characters wouldn't look at stuff like that when they're in a moment like this. So I'm glad the writers, made that decision, which sometimes that's hard to do when you're a writer, is to not make your characters as smart as you or as smart as the audience. And so I think it was important to do that. And sometimes the audience doesn't like that because they feel like they're smarter than the characters, and then they think that the writers are dumb. And it's like sometimes it's a hard choice. But I like that they did show that little blood splatter, and plus it was just like with that episode Argentina or Nebraska, and in season 6 of Dexter, when he went to Jonah, and then Jonah, did his thing, and Dexter followed the pattern. And then when he followed the pattern, he was like, okay, so he swung this way. Then he found, mm-hmm. It's always sad to, when you watch stuff like that, or when you hear stories like that, where people are going through something so terrible, and they don't have a person there. I actually went to Colorado for a while and lived by myself, and I didn't know anybody there. And after a while, I got scared. I was like, you know what? If I like died right now, something happened to me, no one would be able to like identify me out here. No one would know who to call. No one would know anything. My residence wasn't fully in my name. Yeah, Teddy. That doesn't look like Audrey. I'm actually kind of glad that that Audrey and Angela didn't return. It's just crazy. Everything just works out for Dexter. It just works out for him. Divine intervention, right? Mm. Well, they're asking Dexter if, if he wants to press charges. Like, no. Well, yeah. Just just enjoy life and look ahead. Well, I'm pretty sure Angela and Audrey, or at least Audrey, will come back. Like, I get that Dexter New Blood was more of a internalized prison that Dexter went to mentally, with Deb really representing his internalized guilt of everything. So, it's probably good that most of these characters don't get transferred, back in, although I have a feeling, a theory that Audrey may be pregnant from Harrison. That's just a theory that I've been having for a while now, for a few years. During when he said that, hey, call the cops, we have a body, or part of one anyway. I was expecting one of them to say, again? If I was on the show and I was an extra, I probably would have said that in the background. Hey, we found a body. I'd be like, again? This scene right here, I do not know who picked this scene out, but area, this area that they filmed in has a very intimate feel to it. It feels like it has an echo of history to it. Now, I can't really explain that, but it just feels like a lot has happened in this spot, in this area. Like, this area has seen a lot, and there's a lot of memories, like untapped memories, just stuck in like the field, or like the I don't know, a field of this area. and it just feels like it's a heart of what the city represents. It feels like it's a heart of what the city really represents, and how it correlates with what the show is about when it comes to the atmosphere. So I don't know. So this was like an amazing spot that they picked. I know there's a million spots they could have picked for filming, but something about this particular spot stands out. Stands out on so many levels. I bet it's beautiful in the snow. This actress reminds me a lot of me, honestly, too. When I was actually watching the scene for the first time, I was like, when she puts her headphones in, I was like, oh yeah, she's in the zone right now. And I actually felt connected with her character instantly. And as she was like doing her thing, I could like feel myself kind of like in her head, in her mind, doing, checking out the thing, checking everything out. And I just feel like she's a very focused character. And I have a feeling that having her character in the show is very important for the simple fact that it really does show you that we're not wasting time with things. We have it in our mindset and in the writer in the story that we have awareness as producers, as writers, as a crew. We have awareness that this show needs to have that character, which gives the audience permission to be in the shoes of a detective or be in the shoes of someone who's very focused or you know just really on point about something. um Much like LaGuardia's character, who is about focus, this new cop, I feel like, can really revive that in the show and do it, much more intimately, much more true than with LaGuardia, because it's not about being a politic now. It's about, being a cop, being, trying to get your man. So I love that about that character. Every time you make a character in a show, you have to let this character give the audience permission to invest certain parts of themselves into the show. So I think that it is important to have a character as focused as she is in this show, that really help people out who enjoy the cop aspect of the show. Not just the darker side. So yeah, Dexter and Batista are talking right now, and Batista is like, yeah, oh, when they hugged each other at the door, that was amazing. That was a beautiful hug. That was like, this was like, whoa, I haven't seen you in so long, and it's like so much has happened, so much has been lost, so many people have been lost, and just to reconnect with someone and be like, hey, like it's been so long. I remember having that feeling when like you work at a job. I'm sure many people have worked at jobs, and you start bonding with the crew and you all get along, but then people start leaving and disappearing. It's like, oh man. Then at some point, two, maybe three of the old crew come back, and you're just like, oh man, the crew's coming back together again. That's like that emotional feeling I got, which is it's not all there, but what little we got now, let's put some love into it. I really felt that way when Batista saw Dexter and hugged him. What I like about this scene also is how Dexter is being honest. It seems like he's actually being genuine for once. That he's just too tired to lie. He's just trying to be honest. But also at the same time, Batista really does represent a sense of righteousness. of Dexter's mind. And right now, Dexter's having an internal conversation with, that righteousness inside of him, which is, hey, how about you know, how about we really talk about this? Yeah, so now she said you were the Bay Harbor Butcher. So Dexter is Dexter is very, very disconnected from being honest with his sense of righteousness. The fact that Dexter and Batista can't fully connect in this moment really shows how far Dexter is from finding that sense of righteousness within himself. Just almost maybe justice, right? I don't know, however you want to. Yeah, Batista knows. Batista is just so darker, so much darker, and just more aggressive. He's been through so much. Aw, it really is showing how different Batista has evolved. Oh, it's unfortunate that the conversation happened this way. So Batista's saying that be regular Joe. Rest. With Batista really representing Dexter's sense of justice or righteousness, it really does reflect strongly how Dexter's visions of everybody, really kind of gave Dexter pieces of why he wanted to come back and the reason why he should come back. And Dexter chooses to come back, for the sake of his son and the sake of his light. And, his light's still on there on Earth, but like the inner light still needs some kind of direction in a sense. Darkness gives focus to light. If light is capable of anything, if it's endless, if it's like infinite, then whenever something dark does happen, then the light basically has a sense of definition, want to balance out or counteract that darkness. So in a sense, darkness gives meaning to light. And so with Dexter's darkness being killed at the end of New Blood, Dexter's Dexter's light is still around, and that's the representation of Harrison. So with Dexter choosing, I want to stay on Earth for light for my son, then that's a step for making a step of righteousness. If I want to, as I want to embrace the light and give the light meaning. And so when Batista says, "Oh, I've officially resurrected you," that was a metaphor or symbolism of Dexter's internal righteousness, bringing him back to life. So I really love that use of that. Yeah, this scene right here where Dexter is laying on the table, lying on the table. It's crazy to think, Dexter has to, recover, get himself back together. But oh wow, I completely forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, it's amazing seeing, Dexter lying on the table right now. And it's sort of like, hey, Dexter, you've been confined for so long, but now that you've been defined for so long, but now that resurrection is happening, now that there's like a rebirthing, how does one handle life after coming back and purposefully wanting to die, purposely wanting to go to the other side, not planning to come back, but then you come back and internalize, your own pain. You lock yourself away in a prison, and when you're forced to get out of that prison, and then you say, okay, I'm done, go ahead and kill me. And then once you come back again, it's like whoa. So now when Dexter's on this table, it's like laying on this table right now is a different definition. It doesn't mean death. It means, healing, rejuvenation, things like that. And so now it seems like everything that was heavy inside of Dexter and that had this dark symbolism to him, just this moment right here when he's on the table having his therapy, it really shows it shows that what was once dark and heavy and anchoring inside of him is now loose, and it's like more out in the open, and it's more like, yo, back in the day growing up, I had to hide myself, I had to confine myself, imprison who I was. But now you see these little tiny increments of pieces of Dexter that are openly coming out in the world, and it's like, Dexter's like in shock that, wait a minute, what was inside of me internally is now being manifested physically right in front of me. And you start seeing that in little bits and pieces. We have Batista here. We have some things in future scenes, future episodes. And I won't talk too much about what happens in the next episode, but things like that. Quiet, please. I love that. Um, I love that Dexter is up to his shenanigans. Yeah, there you go, Dexter. A whole window. About to say, I think he's a bit too old. They don't want to hire. They don't want to hire a stunt double to climb out the window. I got a little bit into filming, a little bit, like with an iPhone. And once you do simple little scenes like that, like walking through a doorway, turning a corner into a hallway, walking, getting through a window, it is amazing how much work actually has to be put into getting the angles right and getting the cameras right and getting the person's movement right. It was amazing, so sometimes when I watch movies or watch shows and I see cuts at certain times, I'm just like, yeah, I get it. I can see what they tried to avoid there. I can see how this might have been a problem. And they just kind of like cleaned it up. And it's like you wouldn't, as a regular person, you wouldn't see that. You wouldn't see stuff like that. But sometimes you can see why. scenes were actually added and things like that. And me being a writer too, I've written long scenes. I've written scenes, pieces of story, and I'm like, bro, this is like too much for one section, and I would have to actually cut the conversation and then put in another conversation, and whatever I cut out, I had to like split it up into chunks throughout one chapter. And so watching a show, sometimes I'm like, okay, so they just filmed this one area. They probably filmed like 7 episodes all at one time in this one building, out of sync, and then later on cut them all together. And it's like sometimes I could see stuff like that, or or sometimes yes, you'll see scenes from one episode, to a few more episodes later, the characters will be in the same scene, but one character will be wearing different clothes. So, do the scene, go to lunch, come back, wearing different clothes. We'll film this next scene that happens in like 2 or 3 episodes from now. I just had deja vu. I was worried. Okay, so I love this. Her device that she has to correct, open up the safe and everything. And yeah, they have these. I've seen a lot of women go into hotel rooms and feel very unsafe. And there are different gadgets and trinkets I've seen that women would have with them to scan rooms for stuff like this, for cameras and microphones and things like that. And so I've seen some crazy things. And yeah, I love how this technology is, because it really does show the new age of what Dexter's dealing with right now, and what the show may be about in so many ways. When it comes to dealing with like modernism and you know, she's really digging through this apartment, huh? There she is. There's her face. Uma Thurman. I saw the cast list of this show and I thought it was the craziest thing. I really, really wish. I really, really want to be a part of this show. I really want to be cast somewhere. I want to be like Brother Sam's illegitimate son or nephew or something. Like I could do it. I could do the whole thing. If anyone's listening to this that's actually a producer, please put me on board. I think I could be a good serial killer too. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Just have to remember my childhood. Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy. Sorry, my dog's right here. New York City. Yeah, Dexter's gonna have to get rid of that truck. Stands out way too much in the city. I believe they used to play that song all the time during the Isotopes games when I was younger and I saw the commercials. Then on the left side, there's actually an Easter egg that shows Paramount's, and that Paramount is the streaming service that plays Dexter, where you can watch this show. Obviously, but just found that uh, nice Easter egg. There is Harrison. That H really stands out. I'm not quite sure why. All right. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Okay, buddy. You gotta go. I can't pause. I can't like. Oh, this is the end of the episode. Cool. All right, buddy, come on, go. Yeah. If there are any producers or writers, please put me on. I want to be a part of it. But yes, that was the first episode of Dexter Resurrection. I really want to watch these episodes of Dexter Resurrection as a fan, so I don't want to get too deep into, mythology type stuff. Maybe later. But as for right now, I just want to enjoy the show as as a fan. I love the ending credit sequence because there's an overlap of noise and music. You just hear all this random noise everywhere, and it really does reflect New York City and all the uncontrollable sounds and noises that New York City offers. And so, right now everything is just kind of up in the air. Everything is just everywhere. Nothing really has a place right now, and so I love that how this ending song really reflects that right now. Really reflects that yeah, you know what's there, but it's still trying to figure it out. Thank you for listening to this, and you guys have a wonderful day.